Hello, crypto friends. Going to check in on a bunch of names, including some altcoins as voted on by members. Very pleased with the response to Robe Life from the last video. It seems a lot of you already get it. I'm going to buy somebody the robe that I have. When I'm settled down at the end of this weekend, I'll pick somebody and I'll ask a question and you guys can answer in the comments. But someone's getting a robe because Robe Life. So Bitcoin on the daily time frame, when we got the bull break on the 4-hour, what we then do is we zoom out and we look at the longer term time frame, and we knew that the exponential resistance on the daily time frame was going to be a battle. This 12 and 26 period has been great on the 4-hour, on every time frame, hourly, 4-hour, and now the daily as a clear resistance level. At this point, if we pull back and break 380 or 3,869, the low of the day today, if we see that level break before we change daily candlesticks, that's a big red flag to me. That's definitely more of a pullback than the bulls would like to see. They'd like to pull back and hold that level and then try and recover, because remember, to change the daily trend, we knew a lower high was coming. Now we have to form the higher low and see the continuation move with a bull break over 44.15 in order to see the daily trend change. If we see another red day tomorrow and we pull back down to 3,700 and below, the odds that we're going to break down to a lower low below 34.56 is very likely. At this point, I have a very small position. It's probably about 15% of what I had once we broke down below 4,000 and I started scaling in. So slowly scaling out, I exited another few percentage points of my position yesterday at around 4,200, and that's because we saw a very clear head and shoulders pattern on the 4-hour time frame. So we look at the longer term perspective and we say, all right, daily exponential resistance is being tested. This bounce has followed through almost 20% or more than 20% from the low. So it makes sense to be watching for a loss of the 4-hour uptrend to indicate that daily consolidation is coming. So when I see this head and shoulders pattern start shaping up, we know the odds are more likely than not that that's the way it's going to play out, because the longer term perspective, the daily time frame, tells us we're more likely to begin consolidation than see continuation. So when we broke this support level of 4,110, it was a very, very easy bear signal that lost the 4-hour uptrend. And at that point, we pulled back significantly and saw an increase in bear volume. So if you went short at 41.10, we then topped or bottomed out at 38.69. So there was a total of about $241 of potential opportunity for the bears there, which is about 5+%. And even if you only capture a little bit of that, the clear entry signal was there. Let's say you sold after $150. That's still 3% to the downside and a solid gain for the bears. At this point, the bears are hoping that the 4-hour time frame rejects from exponential resistance, which was support temporarily. It's back to resistance. Bears want to see a bear flag, rejection from that level, and another leg down, which would make the daily chart more likely to see another leg down as well. I'm watching the Bitcoin shorts at this point because they did not stress out. They did not panic, and they were watching for the daily lower high, and there it is. So I'm going to be watching to see how do these shorts respond to here. Do they continue to pile in, anticipating that another lower low is coming on the daily time frame? And other than that, the last 3 days isn't really giving us much information, aside from the fact that, again, short positions were not closing as they appeared confident that a daily lower high was going to come, and that's exactly what we got. Ethereum on the daily chart didn't even get to exponential resistance, and now it's pulling back. The support level is down at the low of 99.26 and 98.20. Resistance is now 126.46. Declining bear volume is a good sign for the bulls, but again, we have to form this higher low and then see a bull break. We have to change trends on the 4-hour time frame. So the 4-hour chart had a lower high, held support, bear break, lower high, lower low. Anything under 119 is just a lower high on this 4-hour time frame. It's fairly contained. I look at this and I don't see much of a red flag at this point if we can change this trend in the near term. Again, if we get another lower low below the low of this point of 110.43, that's a red flag. That's way more pullback than the bulls would like to see. But if we can start to change this 4-hour trend, that will give us the daily higher low and tightening range. So pretty much we're at another scenario where the bulls' backs are against the wall. They have to prove themselves right now, because if the bears get any more ground, it's going to make them confident again, and we're going to be looking right back down to the lows of that dump. So it does look like a 4-hour bear flag at this point on ETH. If Bitcoin and ETH and these other coins cannot change these 4-hour time frames, we're just going to continue seeing lower highs and lower lows on that daily rejection. LTC rejecting from the daily exponential resistance, inside bar bear break, Anything above 26.37 will be a higher low. We've got a new resistance level up at 36, and the 4-hour time frame has to change back to the bulls. Again, it's pretty contained, but they need to turn that around pretty soon and have us looking for that daily higher low and shift back towards resistance. It's also a potential bear flag at this point on the 4-hour time frame as well. XRP, daily rejection, but we didn't get to exponential resistance. The low at this point is 329 support. Resistance is 407 resistance. And the 4-hour time frame, a little bit less contained. It was contained. This leg down that we saw on big bear volume dropped it pretty hard. Here's the bounce. 4-hour bear flag is a potential. If we drop down and break 355, it's a red flag on the daily time frame. So pretty much all of these names where we stand, if our low of consolidation is not set yet, if we drop down to a lower low today or tomorrow, anytime, that's going to increase the odds significantly that the bears keep control of the daily time frame and obviously continue to see the potential increase for lower lows on the daily time frame. So the low of the day for all these names right now is very important for me going forward. XLM BTC on, I believe this is Binance. But we're watching multiple inside bars break bullish and see a little bit of follow through now. If we look at the weekly time frame for the longer term perspective, we do have a higher low and higher high pattern. Anything above 3238 is a higher low. The bulls are hoping that that higher low is established at 358, but they need to shift that momentum on the daily and change this trend. So we have the low, the high of the bounce at this point. We'll need a higher low and higher high to confirm the daily trend change to give us another weekly higher low. If we lose this weekly higher low pattern, it will be very notable. We've seen 1, 2, 3, 4 higher lows, and that needs to be maintained for this uptrend. So trying to form another weekly higher low, but we do need more daily follow through with the higher low and higher high that everybody at this point needs. It's just a little bit different of a shape because this is a pairing with BTC where everything else is a pairing with USD. OMG USD. So the setup is the same with the daily. We did not get to the exponential resistance. The low of the pullback at this point is 133, and we're looking at resistance of 175. The pullback that we've seen to this point, that needs to be the low, because if that's not the low and we drop down to a lower low, we're going to be right on top of that must hold support level, the lowest price we've seen. So again, potential 4-hour bear flag, must hold the low of the day at 145 for the bulls to have a fighting chance of trying to see a daily higher low form. If we drop down to the lower low, the odds of a daily higher low will be much less significant. Same with everybody else that we just looked at. BCHSV, so we were looking at a bearish entry, and I know it's not easy to short this on exchanges, but it was a clear setup where we had bounced so significantly that we knew a lower high compared to the all-time high was likely. Go back and watch the video from November 26th. And even if you can't trade it, I'm not trading this name bearish, but I'm registering what's the most likely scenario. I give my analysis, I watch it play out, and that now is logged into my memory banks and saying, yep, that's another equilibrium setup that we knew was most likely to happen, and that's how it ended up playing out. So while I did not benefit anything financially from that, setup and that direction to be looking, it is going to reinforce in the future when I see another setup like this. And I remember that was the most likely scenario, and it did play out. And that's, again, that's happened thousands of points at this time throughout my trading in the last 8 years, just building up a library of, how things played out. And then I can recall that, not individually, but I get an idea of, how often does this pattern end up playing out. So the lower high was set on the daily. We're now looking for a higher low to form. Bulls would love if $85 is going to be our higher low. And at this point, we pulled back $66 from the top, which is well over 40%. So significant bear pullback. Now we're just tight and we're trading sideways. And if you look on the 4-hour time frame, 93.40 and 92.45, trying to build a base of support. Key resistance is 109.69. That's the channel that I'd be watching right there. Technically, we did drop to a lower low, but there was no follow through. So I'm watching this support level, and we have to see a change in the 4-hour trend for the bulls to be confident that our daily higher low has been set. So we had the low of the pullback, high of the bounce, higher low, lower high, almost a double bottom, just barely a lower low, and have to break the lower high pattern, 117.89, 109.69, have to break this lower high pattern for us to be confident our daily higher low has been established and the daily range is going to continue to tighten from here. So that's where we stand for everybody overall. Need to hold the low of the day, or the bears have a significant advantage on the daily time frame. Watching 4-hour potential bear flags, bulls have to give us some indication that they're not going to be bear flags, because it certainly looks likely that they will be at this point, and bears were scouting entries at the daily exponential resistance or the loss of the 4-hour uptrend. Those were two bear signals to act on. The first one had higher risk, higher reward. If you are a bear and you're entering into bull momentum in the 43, 4400s, you are taking a more risky trade, but you're nailing the top. If you are waiting for the 4-hour support to be lost, it's less risk because the uptrend is lost when you're entering and the bears have momentum, and it's less reward because you're not nailing the top. You're waiting for the $300 pullback from that top, but you're profitable instantly on that trade. Whereas say you started scaling in at 4,300, you're in the red a little bit and you have to be more patient. So those are two completely different mindsets in how you're trading. One is more aggressive and the other is more patient. And it all depends on what your style is and how active you are trading and what's more comfortable in terms of your risk tolerance. But either way, both signals for the bears have already been given at this point, and the next trade for a bear to enter would be a 4-hour lower high, hoping these are bear flags, but the ideal entries have already passed. So now we're just patiently watching the tightening ranges. That's a new one. We're watching the tightening ranges, and every single day that goes by, we're going to shift the odds. Is the low in? Can we form a daily high or low, or are we dropping back down to support? And how much pullback we get from where we stand in this moment when this video is being created is going to be very telling for that. Again, the low of this pullback at this point, bulls really want to hold that level. So I appreciate you watching. In the interest of do good things here, we had another community member reach out with a GoFundMe, and I like these kind of donations more than just sending it to a very large organization that has a lot of administrative expenses and a lot of overhead, and you wonder how much of my money is really going towards the cause. But these are ones where, this person who is a TheChartGuys viewer is headed out to Guatemala and has some connections there, and they recently just had a volcanic eruption. But knowing the power that, $15 can have over somewhere in Guatemala, like somewhere in Guatemala where the dollar is not as strong. But we can see here he shares that, $15 a day buys a construction worker for the day. So they initially raised money for food and things like that. And I'll post this link so you can read it as well. But they collected $2,000 for clothes and food, and now setting their goals a little bit bigger to potentially build some living structures for these people who were affected by this natural disaster. So he's going back in just a few days here, and looks like nobody's donated to the GoFundMe yet. So if you watch these channels and you're appreciative of these channels and want to tip me or have wanted to tip me or the Chart Guys in the past, I highly suggest just putting 10, 20, 30, whatever you can towards this. And even if it's just $20, that is going to go a long way down in Guatemala. So appreciate your interest, and I'm going to kick it off here right when I end this video with my first donation. And I will see you all later this weekend, potentially tomorrow, but not going to make any kind of guarantees. Thanks again.